Listen to me. There comes a moment in a person's life when the noise of the world must finally be silenced, when excuses must be cut off at the root, when the endless waiting for someone else to step in and save you must be put to death. There comes a day, if you will have the courage to face it, when you choose yourself, and on that day everything begins to change, not because choosing yourself is easy. It isn't. It is warfare. It is standing in front of the mirror and refusing to negotiate with the weakness that has ruled you for years. It is looking at the habits, the fears, the doubts, the wounds, and saying, * no more. * it is not some shallow affirmation. It is a decisive act of will, a turning of the heart, a declaration that you will no longer live as a spectator in your own life. Choosing yourself means taking responsibility for the person you are becoming. It means waking up to the reality that no one else can fight your battles, no one else can cultivate your character, no one else can rise for you. People may encourage you, they may inspire you, but they cannot walk your path. That burden and that privilege belongs to you alone, and do not be deceived. The moment you choose yourself, the world may not applaud you. It may resist you. It may mock you. The old voices will whisper, "Stay the same, don't try, don't rise." But you must rise anyway. You must push forward because complacency is a trap and comfort is a thief. Growth requires discomfort, and transformation begins exactly where you stop running from the hard things. When you choose yourself, discipline is no longer an enemy. It becomes your ally. Sacrifice no longer feels like loss. It feels like investment. Struggle is no longer a sign that you're failing. It is evidence that you are fighting for something worthy. And hear me, even if you feel weak, even if you feel late, even if you feel broken, you are still responsible for what you become next. You still have breath in your lungs. You still have strength enough to take the next step. You still have the ability to decide, right now, that your future will not be defined by your past. The day you choose yourself is the day you stop waiting for permission to grow. It is the day you stop living small. It is the day you stop surrendering to fear. It is the day you understand that change is not an accident. It is a decision, a fierce and determined choice. And if you will make that choice, even trembling, even uncertain, you will find that the path before you begins to open. Not because it becomes easy, but because you finally decided to walk it with your whole heart. Real change begins the moment you take full responsibility for your life and choose yourself instead of waiting for others to rescue, validate, or push you. This truth cuts through every excuse, every hesitation, every fear that has kept you stagnant. Responsibility is not a burden meant to weigh you down. It is the key that unlocks the door to your future. But many people never take hold of that key. They stand outside the door, idle, hoping someone else will turn the handle for them. They wait for the perfect moment, the perfect opportunity, the perfect encouragement. They wait for a mentor, a friend, a parent, or a miracle to intervene and lift them into the life they desire. And because they wait, they never rise. Taking responsibility means understanding that the life you live is a direct reflection of the decisions you make. Decisions repeated day after day, often without thought. It means recognizing that your habits, your thoughts, your actions, and even your inactions shape the world you experience. When you choose yourself, you stop blaming circumstances, stop blaming people, stop blaming the past. You stop pointing fingers outward and begin examining the landscape of your own heart and mind. That is where the real battle is fought. That is where real change begins. You must decide, once and for all, that you will no longer hand over the reins of your life to fear, laziness, insecurity, or the expectations of others. You must stand firm in the truth that no one, no matter how much they care, and do the inner work for you. No one can discipline your mind, strengthen your conviction, or guard your heart. These responsibilities are yours and yours alone, and far from being a curse, they are the greatest opportunity you will ever receive. Choosing yourself means you stop waiting for motivation and start acting from commitment. Motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes like the wind, and if you depend on it, you will never become consistent. But commitment is a decision that stays with you even when the feelings fade. Commitment is waking up early when you want to sleep in. It is facing difficult tasks when you want to escape them. It is embracing discomfort because growth cannot happen without it. When you choose yourself, commitment becomes the foundation of everything you do. Taking full responsibility also means confronting your excuses. Excuses are subtle. They disguise themselves as reasons, as justifications, as explanations for why you cannot move forward. They sound logical, even sensible. I'm too tired. I don't have enough time. I wasn't raised with the right opportunities. I'll start tomorrow. But every excuse, no matter how convincing, serves the same purpose: to keep you exactly where you are. The moment you acknowledge this and stop entertaining excuses is the moment you begin to reclaim power over your life. Another aspect of choosing yourself is understanding that validation from others cannot sustain you. External validation is like sugar. It offers a quick burst of energy, a fleeting sense of satisfaction, but it cannot nourish you. It cannot build strength. It cannot carry you through difficult seasons. If you rely on others to affirm your worth or confirm your direction, you will live a life of emotional hunger, constantly searching for approval that never truly satisfies. Choosing yourself means that your identity, your purpose, and your decisions are not dependent on applause. You must learn to stand firm even when no one is clapping, even when no one sees the effort you are making, even when no one understands the changes you are pursuing. Real change is often quiet at first, unseen, uncelebrated, unnoticed, but it is still real and it is still powerful. Responsibility also demands that you confront the areas of your life where you have been passive. Passivity is the silent enemy of progress. It makes you tolerate things you should confront, avoid things you should face, and delay things you should begin. When you choose yourself, you put an end to passive living. You start taking action, not someday, not eventually, but now. You begin cleaning up the corners of your life you've neglected, whether that means healing emotional wounds, addressing unhealthy patterns, or restructuring your daily routines. Bit by bit, you reclaim ground that passivity once stole from you. Choosing yourself requires honesty, brutal honesty. You must be willing to see yourself clearly, not as you wish you were, not as you pretend to be, but as you truly are. This honesty is painful at times. It reveals weaknesses, flaws, and failures, but it also reveals potential, strength, and untapped purpose. When you commit to seeing yourself truthfully, you can begin to grow authentically. You can work on the real issues rather than hiding behind illusions. With responsibility comes empowerment. Many people fear responsibility because they see it as pressure, but in reality, it is the pathway to freedom. When you accept responsibility, you are no longer a victim of circumstance. You are no longer dependent on the actions of others. You have the authority to change what needs to be changed. You have the freedom to decide the direction of your life. You become the one who sets the standard for yourself, who chooses the habits, who shapes the environment you live in. Choosing yourself also means valuing your time. Time is the most precious resource you have, yet many squander it as though it were endless. When you choose yourself, you begin to recognize the weight of each hour, each day, each moment. You stop giving your time to distractions that drain you. You stop allowing people to pull you into their chaos. You stop wasting hours on activities that do not align with your purpose. You become intentional, focused, disciplined, determined, and the more intentional you become, the more progress you will see. You must also understand that choosing yourself does not mean isolating yourself or dismissing the importance of community. It means taking responsibility for your life so that you can participate in relationships from a place of strength instead of dependence. Healthy relationships are built when individuals take responsibility for themselves first. Choosing yourself means you show up with integrity, with clarity, with purpose. You are no longer looking for others to complete you or define you. Instead, you bring your full self to the table. There will be moments, once you choose yourself, when doubt creeps in. Doubt is persistent. It whispers that you are not capable, that you are not worthy, that you will fail. But choosing yourself means you refuse to let doubt make your decisions. You acknowledge the fear, but you move forward anyway. You remind yourself that growth takes time, that progress is rarely immediate, and that transformation is a process of daily choices, not one dramatic leap. The day you choose yourself, you begin to live with purpose. Purpose is not something you stumble into. It is something you cultivate through discipline, reflection, and consistent action. When you take responsibility for your life, your purpose becomes clearer. You begin to identify what matters most and what does not. You start aligning your choices with the person you want to become rather than the person you have been. Choosing yourself also means embracing responsibility when you fail. Failure is not the end, it is a teacher. When you take responsibility for your shortcomings, you gain the ability to learn from them. You stop hiding from failure and begin using it to build resilience and wisdom. Every setback becomes an opportunity to rise stronger. There is a deep strength that emerges when a person claims responsibility for their life. It is a strength that does not depend on circumstances. It is a strength that is not easily shaken by criticism or setbacks. It is a strength that grows quietly but steadily, and the more responsibility you accept, the more impossible it becomes to return to a life of passivity and excuses. Choosing yourself is not a single decision, it is a daily commitment. It is a choice you renew every morning, every hour, every moment you feel yourself slipping back into old patterns. But with each renewed choice, you shape your future in ways you once believed were impossible. Real change does not come from external forces. It does not come from luck or chance. It comes from the moment you take ownership of your life, from the moment you stop waiting, from the moment you decide that you will rise, no matter what stands in your way. The moment you choose yourself, the foundation of your life begins to shift, and every choice after that begins to reflect your new direction. And when you look back, weeks later, months later, years later, you will realize that everything changed the day you stopped waiting for permission and took responsibility for becoming who you were meant to be. Choosing yourself requires discipline, courage, and sacrifice, but it becomes the turning point where growth, transformation, and a new future finally begin. Most people never cross this line because choosing yourself is not comfortable. It demands that you walk away from everything familiar, everything easy, everything that has kept you safe but small. It demands that you confront parts of yourself you have avoided for years. It demands work, consistency, and the willingness to endure seasons of discomfort with no immediate reward. That is why so few ever choose themselves. But those who do discover that everything they longed for, clarity, strength, direction, purpose, begins to awaken only after the choice is made. Discipline is one of the first tests of choosing yourself. Discipline is not glamorous. It is rarely exciting. It is a repetitive, often unseen commitment to doing what needs to be done, whether you feel like it or not. Discipline means showing up on days when excuses feel justified. It means saying no to distractions, temptations, and impulses that would weaken your resolve. It means setting standards for your conduct, your habits, your time, and your mindset, and then living according to those standards even when no one is watching. When you choose yourself, discipline becomes the engine of your transformation. It shapes you, sharpens you, strengthens you. It turns desire into progress. It turns intention into action, and the more you practice it, the more capable you become. Discipline teaches you to control your thoughts rather than being controlled by them. It teaches you to build momentum through consistency rather than waiting for inspiration. It teaches you that growth is not an event but a practice, something forged through repetition, not emotion. But discipline alone is not enough. Choosing yourself also demands courage, the kind of courage that stands firm even when fear roars the loudest. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the determination to move forward despite it. It is the ability to look at uncertainty and still choose action. It is the willingness to walk a path where you cannot predict the outcome, and choosing yourself will require that again and again. Courage is needed to trust your own voice when others doubt you. Courage is needed to take risks that may expose your weaknesses. Courage is needed to step away from people who hold you back, even when you care about them. Courage is needed to let go of old identities, old patterns, old versions of yourself that no longer serve the life you're trying to build. Courage is needed to admit that you want more, that you are made for more, that you cannot stay where you are. And perhaps the greatest courage of all is the courage to begin. Because beginnings are fragile, beginnings are messy, beginnings feel small. But every transformation begins with a single step, and that step will always require courage. Sacrifice is another essential component of choosing yourself. Many people want change, but very few are willing to give up what must be left behind in order for change to occur. Sacrifice means letting go of comfort. It means giving up temporary pleasures for long-term growth. It means releasing relationships, environments, or habits that hinder your progress. Sacrifice is not loss. It is investment. You are trading what is lesser for what is greater. You are surrendering the life that holds you back so you can step into the life that is waiting for you. But sacrifice still hurts. It stretches you. It exposes the attachments you have formed with things that limit you. It forces you to confront what you truly value, and it reveals whether you are serious about becoming the person you claim you want to be. Choosing yourself is not a selfish act. It is a responsible one. It means recognizing that your growth, your healing, your purpose cannot be outsourced. It means understanding that no one else can walk your path. People can support you, encourage you, inspire you, but they cannot transform you. That work belongs to you and you alone. When you choose yourself, something profound begins to shift inside you. You stop waiting for a better moment and begin creating better moments. You stop hoping for external rescue and begin taking internal responsibility. You stop depending on chance and begin building discipline. You stop being intimidated by fear and begin developing courage. You stop clinging to comfort and begin making sacrifices. This inner shift marks the true beginning of transformation. Growth begins the moment you decide that you will no longer allow circumstances to shape you. Growth begins when you stop surrendering your power. Growth begins when you understand that every excuse you've embraced has been a barrier to your future. Growth begins when you are willing to be uncomfortable for the sake of becoming someone better. This kind of growth is slow at first. It does not announce itself. There are no fireworks, no applause, no dramatic signs that everything is changing. In fact, the early stages often feel like nothing is happening at all. It is like planting a seed in the ground. You see no movement above the surface, but under the soil, roots are forming, pushing downward, strengthening, preparing to break through. Growth always begins quietly. Over time, your discipline becomes more natural, your courage becomes stronger, your ability to sacrifice becomes clearer. You begin to distinguish between what you want now and what you want most. You develop a steadiness, a clarity, a resilience that you did not have before. You find yourself no longer intimidated by challenges that once overwhelmed you. You discover strength inside you that you did not realize existed. You realize that the person you were is not the person you need to remain. Transformation, unlike change, is not surface level. Change alters what you do. Transformation alters who you are. When you choose yourself, you begin to shed the layers of limitation, insecurity, and fear that have held you back. You begin to build a new identity, one shaped by action instead of avoidance, by commitment instead of hesitation, by strength instead of timidity. Transformation requires honesty. It requires the willingness to face your weaknesses without excuses. It requires learning from failure instead of being crushed by it. It requires forgiveness, forgiving others, yes, but especially forgiving yourself. It requires patience, because lasting change cannot be rushed. It requires resolve, because you will face seasons where your progress feels invisible. But transformation is happening even when you cannot see it. And when transformation begins, a new future begins with it. Not a future given to you, but a future built by you. Choosing yourself is the turning point because it shifts the direction of your life. You begin to move from regret to possibility, from stagnation to movement, from fear to confidence, from uncertainty to purpose. You begin to envision a future shaped by intention rather than circumstance. You start to believe that you are capable of more than you once allowed yourself to imagine. A new future does not appear overnight. It is constructed moment by moment, choice by choice. But every disciplined action lays a stone. Every courageous decision adds structure. Every sacrifice clears space for something better. And over time, what once seemed impossible becomes reality. When you choose yourself, you step out of the shadows of hesitation and into the light of responsibility. You stop living according to the expectations of others and begin living according to the calling within you. You stop shrinking to fit environments that do not honor your growth. You stop hiding behind doubt. You stop waiting for permission. You stop settling for less than you can become. Choosing yourself is the moment you reclaim your life. It is the moment you acknowledge that your potential is too valuable to waste. It is the moment you decide that fear will not be your master. It is the moment you embrace the truth that your life is shaped not by accident, but by deliberate choice. And once you make that choice, truly make it, everything in your life will begin to align. Discipline becomes a habit. Courage becomes your language. Sacrifice becomes your strategy. Growth becomes inevitable. Transformation becomes natural, and your future becomes a place of promise rather than regret. It all begins the day you choose yourself,